Hello there, my frugal friends. This is Samantha and this is the channel Trying to Get By. I hope you are all well. Now, who loves soup? Hit me with that like button if you are a big fan of soup. I love soups. There's so many different varieties, so many different flavours that you can get from the humble soup. So I thought that because we have soup pretty regularly, we're going to try and have soup more often, as in we're going to have it as one of our main meals each week, and then the leftover soup I'm going to use as some of my lunches. So I'm starting myself a little bit of a challenge, and this is going to be a year of soup. So the aim of this is to make a soup each week, probably on a Monday, so we'll have it for Monday night tea. And we're going to aim to make a different soup each week for a year. I will video all these, I will pop them on, I will do the month of soups near the end of the month, so as close as I can to that nearest date to the end of the month when I've made the last soup for the month, and we will ultimately create a year of soups. I have got a couple of soup books. I've got one from the library that I've been having a look at. I do have Delia Smith's book about soups. Now, obviously, a lot of those soups will contain meat, which we won't use. However, it is possible to make them sometimes with the substitutes, so the tofu or the plant-based meats that I can get hold of. So we're not necessarily limited to just vegetable soups, although if you think about it, with how many vegetables there are out there in the world, there are lots and lots of options. So hit me in the comments with your favourite soups, or a soup you think I should have a go at and try, and we're going to start with soup number one. Soup number one contains a classic ingredient, carrot. Traditionally, carrot and coriander would be a good go-to soup. Chris can't stand coriander. He has the anti-coriander gene. You know, the one that makes coriander taste like soap. Can't stand the stuff. I have tried sneaking it in the past, and he kind of notices it, but there's no way I can get away with it as a main flavour. So we're going to go for a carrot coconut spicy soup. Now, I've read a few recipes recommending lentils, which are great. However, I've got some chickpeas in that need using. So to be honest, I've got a thing of chickpeas in the fridge. I'm not going to put them in at the beginning because we're going to do this as a slow cooker recipe. I'm going to put them in probably with a couple of hours to go, and it's all going to get blended anyway. So it's going to create that soup. Or I might blend the carrot and then add the chickpeas. I'm not 100% certain yet. So the main ingredients, we're going to start off with onion and some garlic. Then we're going to put in our spices. So we're going for turmeric and cumin and paprika. Now, if you have turmeric, add black pepper. You've heard of the health benefits of turmeric? Brilliant thing, antiviral, good for anti-inflammatory. But if you want it to work even better, you need to add black pepper to it, because there's an active ingredient called curcumin in it that black pepper activates. That's what we're going in with. We're going in with some of my unicorn yeast-free bouillon. This is a great thing. If you've not got anything like this, go in with a really good quality vegetable stock. And what else? Oh yeah, the coconut milk is going to go in later. That's in the cupboard. And the chickpeas. But this is our base ingredients. So we're going to start in the Instant Pot. I've got my onions in here sautéing on the sauté function on my Instant Pot. Obviously, you can do this in a pan. I've actually used coconut oil in this. I have some in the cupboard, and I figured as I'm using coconut milk in the recipe, it would work quite well. So this is one whole, roughly medium-sized onion and a little bit of red onion that I had still in the fridge that was looking a bit worse for us, so I thought I'll chuck that in. I'm going to go in with a good tablespoon of garlic, and that's probably about, I don't know, maybe a couple of cloves, at least 2, 3, roughly. Go as garlicky as you like. Right, Then we're going to add our spices. So I'm going to go in with, I'm going to say it's about a teaspoon of turmeric, a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of paprika. Don't forget that black pepper. So good multiple twists of the black pepper. Give that a quick little mix. Get those spices into that onion a little bit. Then I'm going to add, that's the cumin getting me at the back of the throat, my bouillon powder. So I'm going to go in with a good sprinkle of this because we're going to go in with quite a bit of water. It's going to be about 4 cups of water, which is just shy of a kettleful pretty much. That's about what I'm going to go in with. There we go. Right, that's calmed down a little bit. Go in next with our carrots. So this, I can't even tell you how many carrots this is. This is probably about 10 carrots, I think. This was carrots that I got in my Morrison's box. I wouldn't normally buy, if I was going to buy carrots for use in the house, I wouldn't buy a massive pack of carrots. I'd normally buy the 1 or 2 carrots that I'd need. I buy them individually because I don't tend to use a lot of carrots. But if I get a big massive bag worth in a Morrison's box, then I am not going to waste them. So we're going to go in here with, now shall I measure it? I haven't got my cup measure out. So let's roughly work this out. Woo! Right, based on the measure on my side of my kettle, that's 1. It's about 2, you know, coffee cup sizes. Yeah, there we go. That is roughly 4 cups of liquid, or roughly a kettle full. So I'm going to pop the lid on this. We're slow cooking, like I say. I'm going to put the slow cooker on for, what time are we on now? It's nearly 1 o'clock. I'm going to put the slow cooker on for 3.5 hours on high. And then we'll see where we're up to, see how well everything's cooked. And then I'll decide based on what time it is and also what other ingredients we've got to go in with, what I'm going to do next. Now, if you were going to do this for an all day, just pop it on low, put the lid on and just leave it and you'll be fine when you get home from work. If I was at home, you know, if I was doing a working day, then I would have just done this in the morning and gone low and just left it. It'll be fine. Okay, my 3.5 hours are done and dusted. So we're going to have a quick look in here. So there's all our carrots. What I'm going to do now is just check and see if that is nice and soft. So I'm just going to get that out. And with the back of a knife, that is lovely. So there you go. That's nice and done. Now the big decision is, oh, you've steamed up. Let me just waft you down. So the big decision is now, obviously I'm going to put my coconut milk in. So I've got that. I've given this a good shake in the can because otherwise it is all split. So that's going to go in. That's going to be amazing. I know that's going to taste gorgeous. Give that a mix round. Now, oh, sorry, I had a sneaky taste. I've got to decide, do I blend this now and then put my chickpeas in? Or do I put my chickpeas in and blend the whole lot? I do personally prefer a smooth soup over a chunky soup. I mean, there are times when a chunky soup, you know, there's a time and a place for a chunky soup. And minestrone is one of them, which I particularly adore. But I'm feeling today we're going to go smooth. So, chickpeas are going to go in. I've committed now. That's it. If you're wondering where the aquafaba is from the chickpeas, as in the chickpea water, I have used that to make mayonnaise. Literally every can of chickpeas or beans that I open, the aquafaba, the bean water goes and ends up making mayonnaise. I do have a recipe on that from, gosh, that must be nearly a year ago. Wow, time flies. So if I remember, hopefully while I'm doing this video, I will link it below if you are interested in that. It's a really easy mayonnaise to make and it is really delicious. And we are going to go back on here with the slow cook. It is now 4:30. Chris will be home about 6:30. We're going to go for 2 hours. If things haven't cooked quite well enough, I can always put the saute function back on and just whack up the heat and just go for... It's done it again because I've not pressed go. Slow cook. 2 hours. Start. Right, now it's going to stop. Thank you. As I was saying, if everything's not heated through and not done to the way I want it to do, I will just put it on the saute function for a little bit longer. Let's see what it looks like in 2 hours. We are done with this soup. Like I say, we could serve it just as it is, but I like my soup nice and creamy. Although I'm just going to give a quick taste of the sauciness of it. Yum. We're going to go in with the hand blender until we are nice and smooth. All blended. So this is this week's soup. So this is our carrot with chickpea and coconut milk. Oh, that's good. And I tell you something, you could throw that on noodles, you could throw that on pasta, you could make that into like a Thai-ish, I say ish, curry dish, add some other bits to it. Absolutely delicious. So that's soup number 1. Let's see what we come up with the next ones. We are on to our next soup. Base ingredient, celeriac. If you've not had one of these before, they look a little bit like the base of the vegetable that they pull out of the ground in the Harry Potter film. What's it called? I can't remember what it's called. The one that sets their ears on fire. Can't remember. Anyway, that's what it reminds me of. If I think of it, I'll let you know. Anyway, so I'm going to start with this celeriac. We're going to go for a chunky soup because I often have a creamy soup that's smooth, but we're going to go for a chunky soup today. So I've got the celeriac as my base. I've found some carrots, so we're going to use those. You've got to have an onion in there because that's the base of everything. Garlic, that's going to go in as well. We've also got a few parsnips. Now these parsnips and carrots I got in, I think it was a Too Good To Go box. So we're going to use those up. We've also got a potato that's going to go in there as well. Other ingredients are going to be my bouillon powder, so that's got lots of lovely flavour in there, and some thyme that I've just snipped off the top of the one I've got in my garden. Now, at the end of this recipe that I've been looking at, I'll put a link to it in the description box. It says add some cream, some like oat cream or, you know, dairy cream if you are happy to use that. I've not got that. However, I've got some silken tofu. So I know if I mix this with some of the stock near the end, I can blend that up and it should create quite a creamy sauce to go with that. So now Archie's barking his head off because he wants to come in. So I'm going to go and let him in and then chop all these vegetables up and then we're going to get going. So I've peeled the parsnip and carrots. I'm not going to bother peeling the potato. And all those tops and tails and bits and bobs have gone in my stock bag, which I just keep in the freezer. And when this is full, I will pop it in the pressure cooker and just make a really good vegetable stock out of that. Now, if you have never done a celeriac before, and I've remembered what it was a mandrake root from Harry Potter. So if you've never done a celeriac before, don't be afraid of it. They do look knobbly and crazy, but they're not as bad as you think to deal with. This one's actually not too bad. You can sometimes get these knobbly bits that travel a bit further down, but all you want to do is just chop the knobbly bit off. Again, that's going in my veg stock pot. Then I chop the bottom off. Then you've got a stable base. And then you could try and do it with a peeler. If your peeler's really, really good, go for it. What I tend to do is just go around with my knife, cut down and just follow the line of the celeriac all the way down to the bottom. And that's not bad. And then if you don't quite get it to the bottom, just turn it around because you've got a flat base on the other side and just trim that way. So I'll finish that off. Right, I've just started to sweat off the onion and the garlic. Now, in my jarred garlic, I put a big heaping tablespoon in. So that's probably a good 5 cloves of garlic. But I am making a lot of soup. This is not going to be 4 portions. This is probably going to be a good 10 portion soup at least. We're having it for our tea tonight. I'm going to do it with some slow cooker bread because I've got this slow cooker, but I've also got a standard crock pot style slow cooker. So I'm going to do that. If you're interested in how to make a slow cooker bread, I have a video that I did about different things to do in a slow cooker. So I will link that at the bottom. And so with all these veggies all roughly cut into a similar sort of size, I'm going to literally just dump them all in to the crock pot, so the instant pot, which is on the saute function at the moment, but we're going to switch it over to the slow cooker function because I'm lazy with soup most of the time and I just like to do it in the slow cooker. You can do it in a pan, take about half an hour, 40 minutes I would imagine. So let's go over here and literally just scoop and dump everything in. I've boiled the kettle all the way up to the top because we're going to need quite a bit of water to cover all of this. This is tons of soup. Now I was thinking as well, if you haven't got cream, tofu, whatever else to go in here, you could thicken up your stock with a slurry of corn flour. Or the other thing to do is, if you want to thicken it and cream it, is take a jug and take a good few ladlefuls of soup out and just blend those with your stick blender. That would work as well. Right, so we're all in there. That's quite a bit. We're going to go in next with our bouillon powder. I'm going to save those sprigs of thyme till near the end because generally fresh herbs are better used near the end of a dish and dried herbs at the beginning. So I'm going to go in with a load of my bouillon because this is going to add tons of flavour. And just to zhuzh it up a little bit, I decided I'm going to throw some mixed herbs just to get it going a little bit. Now in with a whole heck of boiling water. So I'm completely covering and then some. So that's still quite a intense mixture. I think I'm gonna, do you know what? Go whole kettle. So that's a whole kettle of water, which is probably in a cup measurement about 4 to 5 cups of water. So there we go. That's that. I'm gonna put my lid on. If I can remember. Yeah, there we go. Now let's see if I can actually get this on the right function this time. So we're going to cancel the saute. We're going to go on the slow cooker. We don't want it on high, we want it on low this time because it's early enough that we can do this for 6 hours. And we should be good. And I'm going to get on with my slow cooker bread. So we have been cooking for the 6 hours that I put it on for. We have got a very, what I'd call a liquidy soup. So I'm thinking, right, I really don't want to use the tofu. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to partially blend this just to save, well, to be honest, save a few calories, save another packet of something. So I'm going to go in my stick blender, but just partially blend. and then have the rest of it chunky. So let's do this. There we go, partial blend. We've still got some lumpy bits, we've still got some blend. Blended probably a little bit more than I wanted to, but no, we've still got some few lumpy bits. No. Yeah, this is blended a little bit more than I wanted to, but you know what? I'm still happy with it. You know, this is experimentation. I should have probably done it in a jug. Laziness, I'm sorry. It is what it is. However, that tastes really, that's not bad. Not bad. It's not as wholesome as I would want it to be. So I recommend taking some out, blending it in a jug and then pouring it back in. Do it that way. I've made a mistake. This is me learning and you learning from my mistakes and what I think. So yeah, take it out, blend it in a jug, pour it back in. You've got a better control of what you were doing. I didn't realise how intense this blender was. I didn't realise that it would blend as much as it did. It's still got a little bit of body to it. I'm not wholly disappointed, but learn from my mistakes. It's up to you. Blend it as much as you want to blend it. I've got my bread. I will come over here. I'll show you my bread. This is my bread in here. This is looking good. It obviously isn't going to brown as much as normal bread in the oven. However, it's going to use a heck of a lot less energy. So that is really good. That's not far off. I'm going to leave this soup for a little while because Chris is not quite due home for another half an hour or so. So that soup's going to be fine with the lid on. This bread's going to keep going for a little bit longer. And that's this soup. I hope you enjoy it. Do I class ramen as a soup? Yes, I do. And yes, this is a gusto dish. And if you watch my end of March shopping video, you will see why I have got gusto stuff. Briefly, got a good discount, got money off, etc, etc. Worked out really good value. That's basically the story. So I'm making this fragrant coconut ramen with crispy tofu. First thing I've got to do is, well, I'm using this tofu, not the tofu they sent, because this goes out a date before that goes out a date. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slice this up into, what does it say? Drain the tofu, cut into 6 slices. And then I'm going to put it between a couple of cloths and just press it for a little bit. It just gets rid of that excess moisture. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. The other ingredients you will need for this, now I've got to admit, I will probably edit this or maybe add to this as I'm doing it, is chili, shallot, garlic, ginger, soy sauce, creamed coconut, stock, tomato paste, sesame oil, panko breadcrumbs, some spinach, some, are we back or pak choy? We are pak choy, and some noodles. So we'll get on with the rest of the cooking once I've pressed my tofu. Right, I've got my tofu and I've had a thing on it to press it down so it's a lot less wet than it was. So just leave that for a minute. I have chopped up the chilies, the shallot, the garlic, the ginger. It's going in my little mini food processor. There's a little bit of sugar in there. There's a little bit of salt over there. So we're going to pop all that in, and I'm hoping that this is going to blend and make our paste. Now, if you don't have a food processor, a pestle and mortar would do if you've got something, or put it in a little bag and bash it with your rolling pin, and basically you just want to bash it as much as possible so it makes some kind of paste. So I'm going to put some water in there as well, pop the lid on, and let's see if it works. Okay, it's a bit runnier than a paste, but it did say 2 tablespoons of cold water. So that's more than, yeah, that should be all right. So I'm just going to pop that aside. That's to use in a bit. Give that just a little bit of a dab. Okay, next. The thing I'm main thinking about is this bok choy. If you've ever had this, it's delicious, it's lovely. Yes, you do eat the darker bit, the rooty bits at the end, but they don't cook very easily and they take a little bit of while, obviously take a lot longer than that. But on the picture, it's showing you having it as lovely, long, drizzly pieces. And you're going to eat that with chopsticks. And you're going to end up picking that up with your chopsticks and it's just going to go everywhere. So I've got to admit, I'm going to slice these down. I'm not going to put this bit in until I put the spinach and things in at the end, but this bit I am just going to put in a pan with a little bit of water and probably use my wok and steam it off for a little bit before I decide to do anything else, because I want that ready, because I want that nice and soft and tender. There you go. I've just sliced it into probably 1 centimetre chunks, that bit. Like I say, I've left the leafy ends to go separately. This is boiling water in my wok, and all I'm going to do is just pop a spare lid that I have from another pan on top of there and leave it for about 5 minutes just to soften down a little bit, so that we've not got that massive crunch that we don't particularly enjoy. If you enjoy the crunch, keep the crunch. I've sliced this tofu up now. It's been pressed for a little bit and it's not quite as wet, into 6 pieces, so I just did half and then worked out from there. They're about 1 centimetre thick. I'm just going to pop them into the soy sauce, just put them in and turn them over. There we go. And then once these have had a little bit of a chance to marinate, we're going to coat them in our panko breadcrumbs. Oh, tip that down there a bit. Make sure we have plenty of soy sauce on there. There we go. So they can just sit there for a little while. Okay, we're really going to get going on this now. So we have got our veggies cooked and just drained and popped to the side. We've got our other veggies ready to go in. We've got our tofu that has been marinated. In this jug, I have got some stock and the creamed coconut. If you've not got creamed coconut, if you get a really, really good quality coconut milk, really good high percentage of coconut. Now, I got one from Lidl recently that was like 90-something% coconut. Brilliant. Use the very thick top layer of that. So I'm going to go and put the rest of that in there, because that is going to have some boiling water poured on top of that, and that's going to create our broth. So that's that ready for when we need it. So I'm just going to pop that to the side. Next thing I've got in a pan, I have got a little bit of oil there, and I am just going to take my tofu and just give it a bit of a squash into these panko breadcrumbs. There we go. And that is just going to go into the oil. So I'm going to do that with all 6 pieces. I'm going to cook this until it is nice and crispy and heated through. So there we go. Now obviously they've given me more panko than I needed, so let's just pat that all in. Ooh, careful, that one's splitting. Just make sure you give it a good squash, get as much on as you can. And last one, I think what I will do with the excess panko is this. Just put a little bit on the top so we don't waste it, because you can't really just bag that up and put it back into whatever container you've got. So that can just go in there. Let's Give my hands a little wipe. Okay, while that's doing its little thing, we're going to go to our wok and turn the heat up a little bit and pop in our paste that we made before and cook that off a little bit. There we go. So just leave that to cook off. Then I'm going to add some tomato paste. So I'm just going to cut that open, and I've lost my scissors. Found them. Right. So that is prepped and ready. We're just going to cook off some of this water that we had in there. Find a good spatula. Right. We'll come back to this in a minute when it's cooked down a bit. Right, I've cooked this off and you can see most of the water's disappeared. I'm now going to add some tomato paste. This is about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, so a bit of tomato puree essentially. And cook that out. If you ever use tomato puree, please remember to cook it out. Then I'm going to add sesame oil, toasted sesame oil, I think. Yes. There we go. If you've not got toasted sesame oil, don't worry about it. Other oil will be fine. Peanut oil will be really tasty if you've got that. Bit of soy. Good gluggeroo of that. Cook this out a bit longer. Right, while that's cooking for a second, I'm just going to turn my tofu over. Whoop. Fingers of asbestos. Right, I'm going to do that one with that because I know it's split. So, there we go. They look lovely and crispy. Right, back to that. We're now going to add our stock and coconut. And this is now our lovely broth. There we go. I'm going to add our noodles. These are whole wheat noodles. There we go. Just let them sit in there for a minute. Give them a bit of a flip. These only take a couple of minutes to get going. Then we're going to go in with our pak choi leaves on one side, our spinach on the other. Wash your spinach if it's not pre-washed, which I've done. Let me give it a wash. The best way to wash spinach in a bag like that is if you cut open the spinach, pour some water in, give it a shake, and then cut some holes in the bottom of the bag to let the water drain. That's the quickest way I do it. Right, that's just going to simmer for a few minutes. Then we're going to add the rest of our pak choi just to heat through, and then we are going to add our tofu when we serve. Right, what I did was about a minute ago I just put those ends of the bok choy in. This is all nice and steamy hot and lovely, and so we are going to serve up. So I've got my lovely deep bowl there. I'm going to get a big spoon and dish up. So here we go. Now these noodles are probably a little bit more cooked than I would normally do, but I wanted to make sure that all the veggies were nice and cooked well. Now, let me tell you, if I was going to make this again, the way I would make it again would be, I would get the onion, garlic, chili, all that kind of stuff, and I would just chop the shallot really, really finely. I would chop the chili really, really finely. I would use either garlic that comes in the jar and just use that. That would be absolutely fine, and I would just cook that off. Then I would probably cheat and add a can of coconut milk instead of broth and whatever. I would also add the tomato paste like we did before, bit of soy sauce in there as well. Do my noodles. I'd probably do my tofu the same. I'd probably do my pak choi the same. And that's basically it. I just wouldn't do as much faffing around with the main part of the dish. But anyway, there we go with our lovely tofu on top, artfully placed. Do you like that? Does that look pretty? I might have to take a photograph of that. Just 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I've taken a photograph. Yeah, so I'm going to get in here and have a taste of this now. If you like spicy, this is probably going to be a little bit spicy. Let's try the broth. You've got coconut, you've got tomato-iness, you've got a little bit of spice. You could probably put more chilli in if you're a chilli head like me. And tofu just makes it really nice. Now, if you're not a tofu person, and I know, you know, I'm vegetarian, shouldn't really say being vegetarian, blah, 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 but your choice is your choice. If you want to do pieces of chicken on there that have been breadcrumbed, that's up to you. I will say this though, you ain't breaking off a piece of chicken like that with a spoon. Oh, that easily. And that creaminess of the tofu just makes it silky and tasty and yummy, and yeah. So this is going to go obviously as part of my soup group recipes. I think in the future I might have a go at making my quick version and see how it compares. And if you're wondering what I did with the leftover breadcrumbs, I popped them on the top. Yummy. Today's soup is going to go in my canning jars. I'm going to prep some soups. Now, if you are a child of the 70s and 80s, tell me in the comments below, did your parents use cream of mushroom, cream of chicken, cream of whatever soup as a base for a lot of dishes? My mum would use a Campbell's condensed cream of something soup to go in some, you know. Anyway, so I'm going to make my own version of cream of soup. No cream involved. Going to use a bechamel as my base. So, tell you what I've got. So, we're going to have some butter to start off with in here. This is just my spread. Obviously, then you've got the flour components and milk to make your bechamel. Plant-based for us. I'm going to go in with some onions in the base to kind of just jazz it up a little bit. I'm going to go with some garlic in the base, again, to jazz it up a little bit. I'm not just going to do a full bechamel because that's going to use a lot of my milk. I'm going to go in with some of my bouillon powder and some water to create the sauce. Now, I'm doing mushroom, cream of mushroom, and in there we've got leek. So I'm aiming to do 2 cream of leek, 4 cream of mushroom. Let me just turn my butter down because it's a bit bubbly. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to cook these off separately and split the bechamel sauce between the 2 of them so that we can have what we need. Now, each one of my jars is £4.90. So 1, 2, 3 litres, just shy of 3 litres. So if I aim to do 2.5 litres roughly, that'll give me a good space in the top for me to can them. I'm not going to go into great detail about canning. There are people who prefer pressure canning. There are people who prefer water bath canning. There are loads of groups online to go and find out about that. You don't need me to start adding to the debate on pressure canning, water bath canning, who prefers what and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to do my thing. It's going to work for me. If you don't have canning facilities, you can freeze this in portions. So, to start with, I've got my butter in there. I will turn it back up so it's bubbling a little bit, and I'm going to add my onions to this just to get them going. So we're going to cook these onions down until they are nice and soft, and then we'll start adding the other ingredients. My onions have cooked down. I put the last of whatever was in my garlic jar in there. There's not as much garlic as I would have liked. I'd have liked to have put in like 4 or 5 cloves, but I have what I have. Now I'm going to go in with my flour. Now, half fat to flour. No, equal quantities, fat and flour. So basically a tablespoon of flour, a tablespoon of fat. So I put in quite a bit of, oh sorry, I've just knocked you and coated my phone, because that's what I do my recording on, in a cloud of flour. So there we go. And myself. Look, that's just typical for me, but there we go. At the same time, I'm going to put in my bouillon to create the paste in the bouillon, so I'm going to sprinkle quite a bit of that in. So there's a good 4 tablespoons of bouillon gone in there. Now I've mentioned before, my bouillon contains all sorts of good stuff. Sea salt, potato starch, carrot, parsnip, onion, bell pepper, tomato, onion powder, parsley, lovely bay leaf, turmeric, ginger, nutmeg, pepper, garlic powder. You could just go with a stock cube or some stock powder, and then just add some spices. So we're going to go in there and we want to cook the flour off and create ourselves a bit of a paste. So don't go in with your milk straight away or your liquid straight away. You want to just give it a minute or two just to cook off that flour, otherwise you get a bit of a gummy flavour. In the meantime, while this is cooking off, let me show you, I've got my leeks in here. These are frozen leeks that I had, so these are going to take a bit of time to evaporate all that water off. My mushrooms, I've done a mixture of slicing and dicing because I want them all different sizes, and those will cook down quite well as well, because we're going to cook those down in the frying pan once the leeks are done. So back over here. Right, I'm going to start adding liquid to this. So I'm going to substitute out that for a whisk. This is my weird wobbly whisk. It's actually, this whisk is really cool. Look, it splits in half, and I used this earlier so it's a bit mucky. It has a little mini whisk that fits inside. So like that, so it's a 3-in-1 whisk. So that is really good, and you can also put it together to create a bigger whisk. So we're going to start with our milk. And just start whisking till it combines. Now, if you're making a bechamel, now this is going to look lumpy because we've got the onions in it, but if you're making a bechamel and you do end up with a bit of a lumpy bechamel, bear with it. Just keep mixing. Often it will combine really well. The other thing to do is, if you feel like you're just getting nowhere, pass it through a sieve. That is often the easiest thing to do if you are getting lumps. But as I've got onion in here, passing it through a sieve isn't really going to help, but we are well on our way. We've created quite a nice paste, so I'm going to add more milk to that so we can get going even further. I've actually got some hot water here as well, because I didn't want to do all milk, because otherwise it becomes quite expensive using so much milk. And as we're using the stock, we're still going to get the good flavour. So keep mixing and adding and mixing and adding until you get to the volume and the thickness that you need for your soup. Now I want it quite thick because I'm aiming on these being like a condensed soup. Let me just give my leeks a bit of a shuffle in the pan. There we go. Because I don't want those browned, I just want them softened. Now I'm going to have to open another milk. Okay, and then just go in with the whisk again. So I've just found I clearly didn't press the button on my camera properly. I've just shown you that I've decanted my leeks into this container so that they are ready to go in a bit. I then also showed you that I'd chopped up and done my mushrooms, and I'd popped them in a pan, recommending to leave them in the pan, try not jiggle them around too much and mess with them so that you don't end up just stewing them. You want to give them time to get contact with the heat. In the meantime, this has come up to a volume of nearly 3 litres with about 2 litres, no, about 2.5 litres of liquid here. So about 1 litre and 3/4 of milk, and the rest is water. And all I'm doing now is just keeping an eye on this, because if you are not careful, it will start to thicken round the bottom and the edges of your pan, and you will end up with it catching there. So keep stirring it. It's annoying when that doesn't happen and you're talking away and your camera is not recording, and you hope you're not repeating yourself from something you said before, or miss something that you had said before, and then I can't remember whether I've said it now. But there we go. Those are the breaks. This is thickening nicely. I'm going to turn it down slightly and just let this simmer away. I am going to taste it though, just to see what my base sauce is like. That's all right, that. Salt. Definitely needs salt. I remember we're making a large quantity, so a good chuck of salt is necessary. Now, because I'm canning this, I will be more careful with my hygiene, so I will not double dip my spoon. Oh, yeah, salt makes a massive difference. Crazy. So I'm just going to leave this to simmer quietly. I'm going to let my mushrooms do their thing. I might just give them a bit of a shake now, a bit of a move around, because they've been sat there for a minute or a few minutes. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my leeks in this jug, because I want to measure out about just over 800 mils in volume, so not just liquid, because obviously the leeks take up some of the space of the volume, because just over 800, thinking about my jars, because I want to do 2 jars of the leek. So I'm going to get, right, we're in a bit of a situation here, because I've got my big canning container on there and my jar things over there, so I'm just going to have a little swap round so that I can access, that's heavy, and I don't want to spill that because that's got a heck of a lot of water. There we go. So I'm going to ladle out enough so that it goes to the just over the 800 ml mark, because like I say, it's about volume, not necessarily pure liquid. Oh, that splashed on me. Oh, that tastes nice. It's lovely and creamy. Right, we're nearly there. Right, one more. Give that a little mix and just make sure that that is the right volume. Yep. Oh, no, it's settled down a bit because there was probably a gap between the leeks, so let's go in with 1 and a bit. Now this is going to go back in our frying pan just so the leek flavour can get into the condensed sauce. So I'm just going to pour that in there. I've left that on a low heat, so I will get my trusty spatula and scrape out all the goodness. Right, that's in there. That can go in the wash. This is going to go back on the back heat there. And I've got my mushrooms, which are going to go in there. And that is going to create our... Oh, shake that off because I'm going to end up using this, so I'm not going to wash it because it's fine. Mushroom's going to go in there. Create the mushroomy flavour in there. Keep these on a low heat for a little while until the flavour's developed. In the meantime, big canning jars, container, back on there to do that thing with the cans. I'm just sterilising everything. There we go, our 2 soups from the same base. You could do cream of asparagus, cream of what else is there? Oh, cream of chicken if you eat meat. Have a look on the, I'm not sure about cream of tomato. I'm not sure that'd work quite as well in the same sort of way. But either way, here are our 2. I would, if you are freezing them, put them in your containers, let them cool, and they will be good to go. I'm going to go and do my canning with mine. Taste again, which I'm going to do now. Quick taste, more spoons. Right, let's taste cream of leek. Oh, that's tasty. It is very chunky though, so if you're not a big fan of chunky sauces, blend it down. New clean spoon. Let's get a little bit of mushroom on there though. Get on. There we go. Whoop. The earthiness of the mushroom is really, really tasty. So 2 soups, 1 base, easy to do. So that's our month of March soups. I'm aiming on doing 4 soups each month, so roughly 1 a week, give or take. Which soup from this March month was your favourite? I've got to say, I love ramen. Ramen is one of my absolute favourite things to have. Anything with noodles or that kind of thing is absolutely delicious. As you can see, well, I'm not sure if you can see it, let's just see here. So we've put all our soups up. So we have got our chickpea soup, we have got our celeriac soup. Obviously the ramen has been eaten because there wasn't spare for canning. I'm not sure how that would hold up if I was going to can them. And there's our leek and mushroom ones there. I am not going to go into canning on this channel. It's not my remit to do that kind of thing. I will post a link to a canning group that I am in on Facebook, who are brilliant, wonderful. The advice on there is amazing. But this is just how I am organising myself for having things in, which is really, really useful and ultimately, hopefully, should save me some money. I am really looking forward to summer when the garden's in full bloom and we can get some tomatoes and I can start making all sorts of tomatoey based soups. Let me know in the comments below ideas for future soups. My aim is to focus on what I can get free, cheap, what's in season, what is useful for my family. So hopefully our garden will produce quite a lot of those things, and suddenly I feel as though I've gone really bright because the sun's just coming through the windows. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hit me up in those comments. I love reading those comments. We are doing amazingly well with subscribers. I am so grateful to you all for subscribing. It's a little bit of a confidence boost when people subscribe because it makes me feel as though I'm doing something that's worthwhile for others to be watching. So thank you so, so much, and I will see you next time.